We're back here at the News Comments Radio Hour on 90.3 WMSE Upper Montclair. I'm Joe Amditas, and I'm joined here in studio. We still have Craig McCarthy, we have Joan Verdon, and we have Carla Baranakis in studio. Joan, we're going back to you again. We're on the topic of Amazon, everyone's favorite two-day shipping and also favorite villain. Not without good reason for either one of them. Amazon's been in the news in New Jersey recently, specifically because of the incident with the bear repellent that was part of the robot uprising, if I'm not mistaken here. We had an Amazon robot accidentally tear into a can of bear mace or bear repellent. But before we get to that, I want to talk a little bit about Amazon's sort of national campaign to get I'm going to categorize it this way, but to get state governments to beg them on their knees to allow them to put their new headquarters. As some of you may know, or some of you may not, Amazon did eventually choose Queens and a small town in Washington, D.C. for a double headquarters, which sort of defeats the purpose of a headquarters, but we won't get into that. You covered this mad dash to court Bezos. What was that like? Give us a little bit of a background in this whole process. What was that like?
Right. Well, New Jersey actually sort of came out first and said, we will give you money to come. Governor Christie had a press conference, and with state and city funding, city tax breaks, they were talking about $7 billion for Amazon. So I think New Jersey probably put the biggest package on the table. And
the biggest one in the state's history, too. What was it again? What was the number?
$7 billion.
$7 billion total.
Combined. And New York's offer is about $3 billion. So you can see the difference. But I remember when when New Jersey first came out and said we're putting all of our money behind Newark. You know, several cities in New Jersey wanted to bid for it. Patterson was going to put in a bid. Yeah. But the state decided, okay, we're going to back Newark. And when we first did that story, even our editors at the Record were saying, call some business folks. Newark doesn't have a chance, right? They were sort of laughing about it, like this is ridiculous. New Jersey's offering $7 billion and Newark has no chance. And I started calling business experts, e-commerce experts, and by about the third one, I was pretty convinced that Newark could have a good chance and that it did make a lot of sense. And then when Newark was named one of the 20 finalists, Newark sort of had the last laugh for the people who said Newark would never win it. And coming right down to the wire, many people felt like Newark was one of the top 5 chances. You know, if you look at it this way, we don't have to give them the $7 billion in tax breaks because we didn't win. And Newark probably got maybe $1 billion worth of good publicity and good reputation enhancement because their bid was very well regarded, and they emphasized some things that people never heard about.
It's an opportunity to show off Newark and showcase it as the city of the investment of the future kind of things. The
people behind the bid say that they're having so many more meetings with other companies interested in coming in there. And
got to give that tax money away to somebody.
So maybe it was
we can reinvest it.
Maybe it was a smart Jersey move. Yeah. We said we would give you $7 billion.
That's what we meant the whole time. That was our plan.
We didn't have to give you, and it made Newark look a lot more attractive. And there's also been a lot of backlash since the headquarters, the two double headquarters was announced. A lot of states and city councils and state assembly people saying never again, all over the country, not just in New Jersey, we got to stop these taxes. Like, why is the most valuable company in America with the highest market cap being given $7 billion to come here, or $3 billion, or $2 billion, or $1 billion?
So we can just get these companies off welfare, the rest of us would be better off. It's sad. You know, if you give them this money, then they won't want to work for it. You know, they won't feel incentivized to work. You know, you can't give freebies away like that. No, but this is a good point. I mean, I'm glad to see that's sort of a national response because personally, you know, this is something that I've looked at for a while, I've read about. I'm not an expert by any means, but it does seem to be a pattern here that these kind of investments, the payoff, if there is any down the road, seem to pale in comparison to the payoff and return on investment for things like education. There's studies out there. I think one that came out this year, for every dollar you invest in education or infrastructure, you get something like $13 to $26 in return on investment, you know, in comparable and the numbers just do not exist for something like these corporate subsidies and tax write-offs for these companies who come in, and end up using the resources in the roads and giving. They promised these jobs. The jobs either what was Honeywell just dipped out after 3 years. They got a big tax break, and there are arguments. I know in ROINJ had talked about some of the arguments. Well, they technically fulfilled their commitment. It just in a country where. And anyone who studied history, at least in the last 20 to 30 years, in a country so overwrought with patriotism and political patriotism, I don't see a lot of talk about economic patriotism, especially on behalf of these kinds of companies. And it's frustrating. So I'm very happy to see that there has been a reconsideration, at least starting in terms of this. I want to move down now to a specific. Now, Amazon is already in New Jersey, one of its fulfillment centers. And in fact, I think are there 2?
9.
There are 9.
Believe,
okay,
yeah.
I had my numbers off there. There are 9. So we've plenty of Amazon footprint here. Let's talk about a story that your colleagues Dustin and Dustin Rakiopi and Candace Mitchell, and forgive me, Dustin, if I said your name wrong. This is a story called "One Person Critically Injured After Bear Repellent Falls Off Shelf at NJ Amazon Warehouse." What happened?
Yeah, I was actually asked to help out on that story, so I'm very familiar with it. Apparently, a small, not a large can of bear repellent fell off a shelf. We don't know if a robot pushed it or what happened. But
I'm blaming the robot.
Yeah, but
that's fair.
Apparently, bear repellent is like pepper spray, tear gas. So the fumes spread, and 54 people had to be treated on site. 24 had to go on to the hospital.
Oh, my God.
1 was in intensive care. I believe nobody had to stay in the hospital overnight. But this raised a lot of questions just because conditions in the warehouse, like that's an awful lot of people to have to be affected by one can. So
that's a great point.
That's the angle I was working on and talking to various workers groups and workplace safety people. And, were there that many people packed into a small area? Probably not. It just means the ventilation in the warehouse was so bad.
Well, the can, 9 ounces? It's a can weighed 9 ounces, and when it fell, I mean, I've been pepper sprayed before as part of my military training. I had to do that. It's terrible. It is terrible. And if you were ever in an enclosed space with oleoresin capsicum, which is the active ingredient, it's horrible. It's 3 hours. We're talking like 3 hours of agony, and that's just
we should have interviewed you.
Well, it's
now
terrible.
I'm thinking the next time this happens.
Yeah, that and being tased. Those are the worst. And you have to do that when you go overseas. Right. And so I'm scarred forever. I pity these people. I feel I can empathize actually with them. I don't know about bear mace or bear spray, but you make a good point because I mean there have been articles and stories and reports that come out about the conditions in Amazon warehouses. But it does seem a little strange that a 9-ounce can, as compressed as that material may be, can put 54 people into some sort of medical state, let alone 24 of them in multiple different hospitals. So that to me seems very interesting. What else did you find about the story? How has Amazon responded, if at all, and what does it look like in terms of their likelihood of getting compensated or at least being taken care of?
Amazon is not generally very good when we reach out to them for comment, and they just kept putting out a statement, safety of our workers is our top priority. Safety of our workers is our top priority. They weren't really providing any details of the accident. And a few months ago, I had covered a protest. There's some labor groups and community organizing groups that have a coalition called Warehouse Workers Stand Up. And next week, they're planning to release a report on conditions for warehouse workers, warehouses in general, but most of the warehouses in New Jersey have some connection to Amazon. Even if they're not an official Amazon distribution center, they fulfill for Amazon. So
that Christmas tree,
right?
That likely went through. I mean, you ordered it from Amazon, but all these this is New Jersey workers that are putting their hands on this kind of stuff.
Right. But this coalition has found in the past, and the rally that I covered, there were workers there talking. They don't really get bathroom breaks. They, don't really get safety equipment if they have to pick up something very heavy. They don't get sick days, a lot of them. So it's sort of become the labor issue of 2018, 2019. It's, they're sort of the factory workers, like when we had the Triangle Fire and the garment workers, needed to be fighting the auto workers. These are sort of the new factory workers where the issues are, but very hard to get in and try to organize there.
And what this story shows also is that I think most of us, we think, oh, I'm going to order something on Amazon, and it's usually something very innocuous, like a new shirt or, a computer gadget or something like that. But there are substances that are moving through these warehouses that are toxic or dangerous in some respect. And, I don't think we even have given much thought to the idea of the collection of material that is there in the warehouse. Yeah. So,
I'd be okay with Amazon coming to New Jersey or doing a headquarters there if we got guarantees like bathroom breaks for workers or reasonable hours and ventilation and other protections. I would be that's the subsidy that right. We can give you a subsidy if you guarantee those kind of things, even though they should be guaranteed to begin with.
It's interesting that one thing the coalition is striving for is that people be conscious when you order something online.
Right.
That maybe a worker, did have to stand for 10 hours without a bathroom break to get that box to you in 2 days. But it's interesting when you talk about the changes in retail. I remember when the first Walmarts were opening up in North Jersey, and everybody was saying, this is going to kill every other store. They're like this huge juggernaut coming in, and they're unstoppable. And now the new juggernaut is Amazon. That's a game changer. But what I've learned in retail is at one point Sears was that juggernaut.
Right.
And we talked about Sears going away. A&P was that juggernaut. They're gone.
Yep.
Toys R Us was that juggernaut. So retail always changes. And Walmart looked like it was going to take over the world until Amazon started looking like it was going to take over the world.
Well, Walmart is now offering their own 2-day free
Right,
shipping
exactly.
without the annual membership fee.
Yeah.
So, you're not wrong at all.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
the preservation through transformation there, and it doesn't matter what logo or brand it takes. Retail going to retail.
Walmart's actually been pretty smart because they've pivoted pretty well from the early days. And so they're doing things that you never would have pictured Walmart doing 20 years ago, but they're and whereas somebody like Sears said, hey, we're Sears, we don't have to change. A&P said, we're A&P, we don't have to change. And Toys R Us said, we're Toys R Us, we don't have to change. They're not here anymore.
And if you want to see what a juggernaut Sears was in New Jersey, you can look around in some of the towns across New Jersey where there were actual Sears department stores, and they all had this kind of iconic structure that it was low, but then there was this tower in the middle.
Yeah.
And a lot of those buildings have been repurposed into other things now.
Prisons.
Not Sears. I'm sorry?
Dave and Buster's.
Yeah.
So it sounded like a panopticon, to be honest. I thought you'd be like, that was a new Rahway prison,
But if you keep your eyes open, you can see just in the architecture around the state what a big deal Sears was.
Yeah. It's like when you see the old Pizza Hut building that looked like the little, you can't mistake that's a Pizza Hut building. I don't care if it's a TD Bank anymore right now. It's Well, thank you so much, Joan and Carla. Thank you for being here. Joan, can you tell everybody where they can find more of your work? Other than, you go to northjersey.com. Do you have a Twitter? Do you have anything else you want to shout out?
Yeah, my Twitter is @JoanVerdon and northjersey.com.
Okay. All right, folks, that's going to do it for this week's edition of News Commons Radio Hour. I will be off next week. I'm going to be in Philadelphia for SourceCon Power. We'll be taking over. I'm going to try to get Carla and Sarah to take over for us next week, but we'll see. Carla looks pumped about that. She can do it. Again, WMSC 90.3 Upper Montclair, News Commons Radio Hour. We'll see you again either next week or the week after. We're going to be here forever. So take care.